So in these readings today, we find the theme of, we could say, jealousy and envy, and a lack of recognition of the truth, or an unwillingness to consider the truth over our own emotions. So in the lesson for today, Joseph's brothers are envious. He tells them a dream he had. I dreamt that my sheaf was in a field and yours bowed down to me. I dreamt that there were 11 stars and the sun and the moon bowed down to me, right? Representing his own family. And of course, this we know, this is a foreshadowing of his eventual position as the Pharaoh of Egypt, when the whole world bows down to venerate him as being a man most powerful. So this is just a mere prophecy, but they were unwilling to accept this, right? There was a jealousy there was an envy there of, are you going to be Lord over us? Who put you in charge? Right? Not foreseeing that God raises up whom he wills. The lowly he raises, and the proud and the mighty he has cast down. So there's some very good lessons here, just at the very natural level, and the same thing in the gospel for today. The Pharisees, the scribes, holding a position of power, are very jealous of somebody else who comes in meek and humble, who has no power, who has no position, who has no authority, and who is teaching the truth, and people are following him. Right? Everyone's supposed to follow him. Everyone is supposed to venerate and listen to this man, but those in power don't want to do that. They don't want to humble themselves, even when it seems that God may be behind this. Right? God may be the one who is asking you to humble yourself. There's always that very first sin, right? Preceding the sin of Adam and Eve, our original sin, there was the original sin of the angels, right? Which is Lucifer, non serviam, I will not serve. So we could say that the natural faults of the brothers of Joseph are even our own. There's that jealousy of, and this proceeds from, we could say, maybe a generational prejudice, in that I'm older than you, we're older than you, we came before you, you shouldn't be telling us what to do, right? We're in a position over you, how dare you even hint at the fact that you might one day be over us? Right, that's the idea, like, Joseph, you little pipsqueak, go back to the play in the backyard, whatever, don't have these visions of grandeur. But God calls the lowly, right? From the mouths of babes, he has perfected praise. But all of us suffer from this idea that if I've been here before somebody else, or if I'm ahead of you in any way, I should know more than you. You shouldn't be able to tell me what to do. That's contrary to the truth, because we should be looking for the truth no matter where we find it. And this is the admonition in the Imitation of Christ by Thomas à Kempis. Think not, or think more of what is said rather than the one who says it. Right? Don't look at the source so much as, okay, is what I'm hearing, is it true? Is there some wisdom there? Is there something which I can learn and gain? Right? That should always be our number one concern. So Joseph's brothers are prone to this. We could say they're failing to consider the truth of it, that God may do anything, but not Israel. Right? Joseph's father hears this and he rebukes his son, but then he considers in his heart. He ponders these things. What is this meaning? So it's the father who does show a little wisdom there. But the Jews themselves still suffered from this generational prejudice, we could say. We were before you, we were given the law, our Abraham is our father, and if you're after us, or if you're outside of us, the Gentiles, you can't tell us what to do. We have no wisdom to learn from you. This is kind of what you could say, that the error of too much of a good thing, in that there's a veneration for those who are older, a veneration for those who came before, but that can devolve into, when I came before, a veneration of myself, right? A veneration of my own position. Let's see, where was I? The Jews. So the Jews suffer from this, and that's exemplified when Christ says, "What think you of the Messiah? Who is he? Whose son is he?" And they say, well, he's David. The Messiah will be David's son. And then Christ points out this way of thinking. How then does David call him Lord, saying, the Lord said to my Lord, sit thou at my right hand? So Christ is pointing out somebody who comes after you can be placed over you. And the Pharisees are like, they didn't know what to say about that, right? Because they were stuck with that. And in the parable, right, leading into the gospel, this generational prejudice, we could say, the whole parable is about the Pharisees, right? And St. Ambrose explains this to us. The vineyard is the nation of Israel. The hedge is God's protection. The winepress is the Psalms and the Scriptures. And the tower is the law. And God is the one who built this. God is the one who built up Israel. And he sends his prophets to gain fruit from the vineyard, right? To gain conversion of heart, conversion of Gentiles. And the Jews, the chief priests, the scribes, the Pharisees, the rich, the powerful, the kings, all those who are in charge don't want to hear it. They want to take that vineyard and not give it back to God, but keep it for themselves. And Christ points this out. And the Pharisees are able, right? It's not a rational problem. It's an emotional problem. They are able to see when Christ explains this parable and he says, what do you think the master's going to do when he gets hold of those servants? And the Pharisees are like, well, he's going to kill them, those unprofitable servants, and give it to somebody else. And then Christ says, you're the servants. This is the parable. This is the nation of Israel. And as soon as they realized he was speaking about them, that's when their emotions spiked and they could no longer think rationally, but they thought with anger, with jealousy, with envy, with pride, with arrogance. Right? It wasn't it wasn't a rational problem. It was an emotional problem. I can't accept, my pride can't let me accept the truth. And that's why we have to work against those passions, is that our passions prevent us from seeing truth. Right? Our passions is what looks at the outside. You're younger than me. You're less experienced than me. You're in a position below me. You can't tell me what to do. That's not really it. It's more like, I'm not going to let God tell me what to do through you. You shouldn't be the one through whom God expresses truth. But from the mouths of babes, right? He perfects wisdom. So we should not look at who it is, but what are they saying? And is God doing this? Could this be the action of God in the world, right? In my soul or in somebody else's soul, right? Be like Jacob, Israel, and he recognized, perhaps God is calling my son to a position of authority, right? Even over me. So let us be careful about that, right? About especially in the church these days, in not blaming God. In that, why are you allowing these people in charge of your church? Why did you allow this bad priest, this bad bishop, this bad pope, whatever it may be? Why don't you do something about this? This is God's vineyard, right? And we are not the ones to gainsay who he puts in charge of it. Our job is simply to be humble and say, okay, God chooses whom he wills. And we are not to look to the exterior, as did Joseph's brothers or the Pharisees. Who is this man? Not knowing letters, he doesn't look right, doesn't come from the right family. He can't be the Messiah. They were looking at externals, right? Look to the inside. Look to what is being said and think: is the finger of God here? Are miracles being done? Is there the subtle way that God is working? Right? Look to those signs. And when we do that, right, when we look for that, we can see those hidden things. And that's the whole point of, again, the theme of this week is the transfiguration. Don't look at the outside, look to the inside. Now, when we do that, when we look for that in others, we're not surprised when it happens to us, right? Jealousy is wanting what somebody else has. Envy is not wanting somebody else to have what they have. So jealousy of Joseph's brothers is, you can't be in charge, I want to be in charge, right? That's jealousy. Why not me? How come I'm not the one? Envy is just, I don't want you to be in charge. Anybody else, no, you're not me, but not you either. Definitely not you. And difference between jealousy and envy. But when we recognize that we're capable of that, and we're not going to blame others when they fall victim to that, and maybe I suffer, like Joseph. I'm thrown into the pit, I'm sold into slavery, I'm slandered and calumniated like Christ and crucified on the cross. It's the very jealousy and envy of others, it's the very wickedness of others that accomplishes God's design, right? Joseph had that dream that he would be Pharaoh, and the way that he became Pharaoh was because his brothers sold him into slavery out of envy. Right? Christ said, I am the Messiah. I am the light of the world. Right? I am all truth. I came to save man from his sins. And it was the jealousy and envy of the Jews that led them to crucify Christ, which accomplished the salvation of mankind. Right? The fact that Christ was the Messiah. So if that's possible for Joseph, it's possible for Christ. He gives us those examples because it's possible for us. right? If we suffer because of somebody else's jealousy or envy, that patient acceptance of suffering, the very thing itself will accomplish God's design, right? That's why we have no reason to fear. The world can do nothing to us. The world can do nothing to the church that God is not going to bring to fulfillment his plans. That's why we are absolutely assured of victory. The key, though, there is patient acceptance of suffering, right? Patient endurance. So if we are able to do that and use these examples of, I shouldn't look to the outside, I should look to the inside, that's going to help me get through when times are tough. The times look on the outside really bad, but if God can transfigure my soul by grace, right? God can transfigure the church by grace. He can transfigure the world by grace, and on the outside everything's going to look horrible, but the inside is pure gold, right? Pure grace, and that's what changes everything. So let us be firmly convinced of that and continue our Lenten penances with that in mind. We're looking for God's grace. Look to the deep interior, the spiritual, rather than the superficial and the worldly. Well, God bless you all in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen.